I want to bring on the Deputy Undersecretary for the USDA, Sanah Baig. She joins us today from the Capitol. Thank you, Sanah, for being with us. My understanding is that as we move into fewer family farms and we get into more corporate farms, the small farmer is squeezed. And they are in a world of debt and maybe even in a world of pain. And as you talk about the stats, I'll let you get back to your stats, but maybe if you could incorporate like, hey, how's this going to go for them on a personal lifestyle note? I'd love to know if they can increase their power in negotiating because of their position.
It's such a good question. And I think every event that we go to or that USDA hosts or that we're involved with, we always try to advocate to make sure that there is a farmer voice. And that even looking across the halls and within this administration, we have folks that are active producers that have kind of taken a pause from what they do to come and inform policy, which I think is critically important in terms of some of the things that you pointed out, around where things are going for small and family farms. We still do have a system in the United States where the overwhelming majority of our farms are considered small and mid-sized family operations. What the difference, though, is that when you break down where profitability and income are going, it really is the top 8 to 10% of farms and producers in this country that are making 90% of farm income. So it's a kind of a nuanced story. But when this, Secretary Vilsack himself looked at the data and we thought, wow, where, in the early years of this administration, record farm income, and like really an incredible story to tell in terms of overall how much profit we were making in U.S. agriculture that the private sector was really making. But then, in talking with communities and going to, the Delta, going to the Appalachian regions, going to, the heartland, and you see people are struggling, and you hear and you know that operations, especially small family farms, are shuttering, and you know that they're being squeezed, as you said, for profit. Why is there such a disparity in which, like, overall, it looks like number-wise we're doing really well, and yet on the ground, we're not quite hearing the same, especially when we saw the impacts of COVID on the economy and on small businesses. And you realize that the system that we've created has really, over the past 70 or so years, been set up to value hyper efficiency and production and yield and all of these things that did lift millions out of hunger and poverty. And yet there have been some unintended consequences of that. So it is important to note that, people think that we have just this huge ag sector, and we once did, and yet we actually peaked in the United States in terms of our number of farms back in 1935. 1935. So we had about 7 million farming operations here domestically. Today, we have just under 2 million farms in America. And according to our latest census, as you kind of alluded to, only the number of large farms increased in our latest census, while the number of small and mid-sized farms continued to tick downward.